So at the start of session, I thought I would, I was looking for a koan that would fit the start of session. I like to talk about koans. They're kind of fun, and there's a lot of history in them. So the koan I picked out, I wanted to discuss, is case 18 in the Mumon koan, Tozan's 3 pounds of flax. I like this koan because it's simple. I can remember it. A monk asked Tozan, "What is Buddha?" Tozan said, 3 pounds of flax. So when you hear something like that, you got to think like, all right, what's 3 pounds of flax? And why is that Buddha? And I started thinking about that and I thought, well, flax, flax, flax. Well, really, what is flax? I don't actually really know what flax is. I mean, I think of it as like, I imagined it like grabbing a handful of straw or something, like I don't think I've ever held any flax. So I looked it up, what is flax? It's actually, we're going to do a little biology here, sorry, but flax is a blue flowering herbaceous herb. The Latin name is Linum unamotissimum. It's also called linseed. It's actually one of the very oldest known cultivated plants. There's history of flax being grown over 5,000 years ago. It was very commonly farmed in all early settlements. Tends to like to grow in cooler, moister environments. Right now, it's grown in Europe quite a bit, in Russia, Canada, not so much in the US, but in the northern tier of the US, there's some grown. The main purpose of growing flax, or one of the main, there's several purposes. It's called linseed, but one of the main purposes was to make cloth. So flax has has got these long fibers in the stem. In the middle of the stem of the plant is called a pith. And then the outer area, the outer layer of the plant, what would be the bark on a tree, is called a husk on an herbaceous plant like that. In between, there's all these long fibers, and those fibers are what are used to weave linen and to make yarn. Um, I guess the problem with flax is it was used for thousands of years to make cloth. In fact, they said Egyptian mummies, some of the mummies are wrapped in flax or linen wrappings that are so fine, there's over 550 threads per square inch, which you can't buy stuff like that today. I mean, it's super fine cloth. Um, but the problem is it's really hard to get those fibers out. It's a lot of work. And even today, um, a lot of it is just done by hand. And they quite often they just let the material around the fiber just decay, just let it rot away, and then they take the fibers out. So um, in the 1800s and mid 1800s, when they developed the cotton gin and stuff, and it became easier to process cotton, flax kind of took a second seat, a back seat to cotton. Cotton became the cloth of favor. I didn't realize that like in colonial America, they said almost every homestead would have had a patch of flax growing because that's what they made their clothes out of. But then when they were able to learn how to process cotton, they switched to cotton. I didn't really know there was a difference between linen and cotton. Um, but linen's made of flax, cotton's made of cotton, of course. So flax is also used to make linseed oil. You might know about linseed oil. You think of it as used in polishing furniture, polishing wood. It's a wood preservative, kind of like tung oil. Kind of soaks into the wood, waterproofs it, preserves it, and it brings the grain out. It makes it more beautiful. The other use for flax is as a dietary supplement. And the main use for that is to relieve constipation and to promote regularity. And when I read that, I thought, oh, here is a connection with Zen. Because, I've gone to a lot of retreats and like, I think the first 20 retreats I went to, I sure could have used some linseed oil. I mean, it's like the change in your activity level, the change in your diet, the change in your schedule, and everything would just kind of come to a halt, um, and I never mentioned this to anyone. I was kind of embarrassed about it. I thought, what's wrong with me? Every time I go to the Zen Center, I'm stuck, and I don't know what to do about this. And I mean, one time I just remember freaking out about it. I thought, you can go like 6 minutes without oxygen, but how long can you go without going to the bathroom? I mean, I was kind of having a panic attack. Um, so you can use linseed oil for that. And I thought, well, maybe Tozan was just a very nice, kind master, and he was just kind of telling this monk, like, just take some linseed oil, you're going to feel a lot better. know, I mean, it's possible. And I thought, no, that's stupid. Don't think stuff like that. That can't be it. But then I looked, and, just two koans later, in koan 21, there's a koan that kind of relates to this. It's very simple, really similar. It says, a monk asked Uman, what is Buddha? Uman said, a shit stick. So I thought, maybe Uman said, I took the flax, it worked. Master Uman could have put those things in there together as a hint, subtle hint. I don't think so. I'm just kind of, that is what came up to me when I researched this, but that's one interpretation. There could be others. The reason I picked this koan was because it's about things. Flax is a thing. It's a thing. I didn't know what it was, but now I know a little bit more about it, but it's a thing. Is Buddha a thing? Is Buddha nature a thing? I mean, like, if you could grab that 3 pounds of flax, would you have Buddha by the throat? I got him. This is it. If you ate some, would there be less Buddha around? It just made me think about that. Is Buddha a thing? Because we live in, such a world of things. We're just surrounded by objects, and one definition, like in Buddhism, of Dharma is a thing. A Dharma is a thing. A Dharma is a phenomena. Um, and I was thinking about that, and I thought, what is a thing? What would I call a thing? And I had a hard time coming up with a definition that didn't use the word thing, but finally I said, okay, use object. I can use object. And I thought a thing is an object or a phenomena, a situation that's different than every other thing. I think in Buddhism, they would say the one thing that all things have in common is they're impermanent. But another thing they have in common is they're all unique, completely unique. I mean, you can look at this room and you can see things like there's a table, there's a TV, there's a fireplace, there's a painting, there's a rug. Every one of them is totally different than every other thing. And if you take this rug apart, I mean, the closer you look, the more uniqueness is there. Every fiber in that rug is different than every other fiber in that rug. And you can get like two ball bearings, they look alike, but they're completely different. And even like two electrons, they might have the same mathematical value in some formula, but they're totally different, or else there'd just be one electron. This uniqueness seems to just pervade the whole world. It's like a feature of our existence is that everything is absolutely unique. And I'm thinking, is that what he's saying? Buddha is totally unique and different and separate, because our practice seems to be more about finding oneness, finding where we're not unique, or at least where we connect, where we're the same. I mean, the guiding principle in our practice that I learned is non-separation, And I mean, our first vow, creations are numberless. I vow to receive them. Creations are numberless. That's all those things, thing, all the uniqueness in the universe. But I vow to receive them means, I vow to open up to all those things. I vow to be one with them. I vow to, to accept them. The door's wide open to come in, and I've kind of always felt that, or it's kind of like Master Zwigon, got up in the morning, and every morning he'd say, Master, do not be fooled by others. He'd answer himself, no, I will not. And the question is, are there any others? Is everything really one? I've always believed that separation that we have, that thingness, that difference, is in some sense an illusion, or at least not the whole story. That behind that there's a deeper reality where everything is one. And yet, when you look around, a cup is not a sock, is not a pen. And that's a good thing, because that makes life vibrant, all this difference. So I've just been thinking about things a lot recently. And the reason is because I went to Ohio, and my mom just got to a point, my brothers and I helped her move into an assisted living apartment, and she's 87. And that's just nothing you ever want to see happen. It's not like a joyful event, really. I felt bad. I felt like she took care of me all my life, and I can't really take care of her. I don't have my house. There's no place anyway. And I felt bad about that. But after we went there and got it all done, I felt a lot better. I thought, I think she's going to like this, actually. I think it's going to be good for her. I think it's a good place, the right place for her. But we had to deal with all these things, all this stuff that she owned that she couldn't take with her. And this is like the third time we've helped her move and downsize, but this time she really had to downsize a lot. She was living in a house, and now she's living in like an apartment with a bedroom and a kitchen and stuff. But she had all this stuff, and I took like 6 loads or 8 loads, maybe pickup loads of furniture and appliances and stuff to Goodwill, all kinds of stuff. And then there's a whole other huge pile of stuff that just, it's like, well, nobody can use this. It's trash. Get rid of that. But then there's other things that, you just don't want to let go of. Pictures that I saw on my grandfather's wall when I was a little kid, paintings that he bought for some reason or got from somewhere, family photos. We have so many family photos, and they're not sorted or anything, but I mean, I got pictures of these weird German dudes wearing swords from 1870 or something. I don't know who they are, but you don't want to throw that out really. But where are you going to put it? Where are you going to keep it? There isn't room for all that stuff. I don't have room for it. I got 3 brothers, so I was trying to like, why don't you take this painting, or why don't you take this chair? Why don't you, and my mom was trying to give us, she said, look, don't take it to Goodwill. You guys can use this, And so then I'm thinking like, well, there is a nice table there. Maybe I could use that. But most of it, I had to make choices. Stuff had to go. Um, and it just made me think about this feeling that I'm losing something by letting go of this stuff that's not even really my stuff. But I don't want to see it disappear. I gave some paintings to my nephews and one to my son, and I took one, and uh, it just made me think about this feeling of loss, like I'm going to lose something by not having these things. And then, I got home, and it's like almost Christmas time. And we get like 10 catalogs in our mailbox every day full of things that you can give to people and buy. And I thought, well, that's the other side of it, the idea that you can gain something by owning something, that you can get satisfaction by having some certain possession. And so I've been kind of just flipping that around a little bit and thinking about it, and that idea that you can gain something. Of course, it's really deeply ingrained in our culture. you know um, the idea is if you get enough stuff, you'll finally be satisfied, and if that doesn't work, just try getting more stuff, and finally you'll be satisfied. And I think most of us know that that only works to a certain level. I wouldn't say it's totally wrong. I started thinking about it, and I thought, well, it's like the philosophy of a squirrel gathering nuts, like for the winter, piling up this huge pile of nuts, and I thought that's kind of like what we tend to do that a little bit, and I thought, well, for a squirrel, that makes perfect sense because he's going to need those nuts. He's got to get through the winter. He doesn't know how long it's going to last, or, um, whether he can get out and find other stuff or not. So, a squirrel that has a huge pile of nuts is probably, all things being equal, going to do better than a squirrel with a little tiny pile of nuts. And it makes sense for us too, to have some set aside money for, for emergencies, because they always happen. I mean, stuff goes wrong, you need extra stuff. Um, but the thing is, it's like, so that's a natural survival urge, this thing to gain stuff and gather things, and build up stockpiles of things. It's just a natural biological urge, but it's kind of hard to shut it off. It's like automatic, and it kind of creeps into everything we do, so that, I think in the back of our minds, or in the back of my mind, like every situation I enter, every person I meet, every relationship I have, I'm thinking like, what can I get out of this? Not maybe consciously really, but it's always there. It's always a consideration. And that's not really maybe bad, except that I think it creates like a certain kind of blindness, because you have a TV set with like infinite channels, but you're stuck on one, like what can I get here? What can I get out of this? So I was thinking about all this stuff and I thought, well, what about Zen? What about Zazen? Doing Zazen. Are we doing this to gain something? It was kind of nice when we came in last night and ate dinner and then we went into Zendo there. And here, the Zendo is very long and narrow. It's like sitting in a boat with everybody. Like we're all on this ship together and we're taking this trip, a journey, because we're setting out on Sesshin. It is like a journey. And, sometimes the sea is going to be calm and sometimes it's not, you know. I mean, this is like a hard journey. Um, I've been to a lot of sessions, and some of them have been just, I mean, I've had a few where it's been so nice that when it was over, I was like, no, let's just keep sitting, believe it or not. Um, I've had a lot more where it was like, 3 days in, and I'm like, oh God, 4 more days. I mean, there's always challenges. It's always tough. No matter how good of a session or how peaceful of a session, it's always going to have some hard spots. So why are we doing it? Do we think we're going to get something out of it? I know when I started doing this, I kind of definitely had that idea. I thought, well, I'm going to get enlightenment. You know, Even if I don't get anything else in my life, don't do anything else with my life, I'll have enlightenment. I can whip that out every now and then when I need it. I'll get that. And I've kind of lost that idea. I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it just kind of fell away. And anymore, I look at Zazen, I think, is there anything to gain out of this? Is this practice about getting something? And I think, it's not. It's really not. There's nothing to gain from doing this, at least in the sense that we usually use that word. I think of I don't have any authority to say this. So I'm going to quote the Heart Sutra. So, um, O Sharaputra, all dharmas are forms of emptiness, without loss, without gain. No suffering, no cause of suffering, no extinguishing, no path, no wisdom, and no gain. No gain, thus the Bodhisattva lives prajna paramita with no hindrance in the mind. Oh, that's no gain. It's pretty clear. It almost makes it seem like the idea of gain and loss is the hindrance. Letting go of that is freedom. No gain and no loss. And then when you look at like the kind of things you do in your life to gain something, we all get up in the morning, or we all have at some point in time, got up in the morning, go to work. Um, you have to be active. You got to get out there. If you want to make a living, you got to go out there and have a job or do something. You got to get out there and engage the world. And here we are in Zendo, and we get up and we sit and we try not to even wiggle. We're not really engaging the world at all. And, here again on a job or something, you need to ask people like, what do you mean by this? What am I supposed to do with this? What's our goal here? You need to communicate and network with people and find out, maybe you're trying to sell stuff. You say, yeah, you need this couch because sometime you're going to want to sit down and this is a really good place to sit. I mean, you need to be able to communicate with people. And yet we try and keep our eyes averted when we're here. And we don't communicate at all, except on a very functional level, usually just with notes. So we're not really networking or anything like that. And then, in our normal life, you're planning and you're calculating, how can I reach this goal? They want me to sell 50 more units or whatever it is. How can I get that done? You're constantly scheming and trying to think up new ideas and, trying to grapple with the situation. How can I do this? And here, hopefully we're not doing that. We're actually trying to let go of everything, let go of every breath, let go of every thought, let go of every daydream. Certainly let go of every plan, everything that comes up, just let go of it. And then it all comes back. It all comes right back. And then you let go of it again, and then it all comes back. You let go of it again. You let go of anxiety, you let go of irritation, you let go of tiredness, you let go of boredom, you let go of, your crazy ideas about koans, everything. You just drop it. And so it's just the opposite of what we normally do. If if your business plan was Zen, it would be like the straight road to bankruptcy because we're not doing like anything, we're undoing, Zen is like not gaining. It's the practice of not gaining anything. I mean, Zen takes our normal attitude towards life and just flips it on its head. It's total reversal of our normal stance towards things. And I think that's what's really, really special about Zen. That's what's really rare about it. It totally flips our normal way of being. And really, it's a very rare opportunity to get to do this. There's just a few days in your whole life, really. I mean, when you look at the length of your life, there's only just a minuscule amount of time you actually get to spend doing Zazen. It's very rare. Most people never get to do it, but even if you do a lot of it, it's a really small part of your life because, most of the time you have to be providing for yourself. That's the physical fact, You have to, at the very minimum, you have to get enough food and shelter to make it to the next day. But hopefully you want to be like a squirrel and, pile up way more than that in case you can't. We have to provide for ourselves. We have to provide for our loved ones. We have to provide for the organizations that we're parts of. Like Mui was saying today, praying for all the work that people have put into Zen centers and temples and all that stuff. I mean, it takes an enormous amount of work. I mean, look at all the work that it goes just to keep this place running, just so we can be here and have a chance to do Zazen a little bit, And then, it just flips our normal approach. So instead of trying to, the project of our lives, like we kind of hit the ground running, And from the moment we're born, we're trying to be more and be better and learn stuff and get degrees and get certifications and get positions and prestige and money and everything. We're just trying to add to our lives and become, better people, more people. And with Zen, we're not. We're trying to just let go of everything. It's kind of like we start in that project, we hit the ground running, but we kind of overlook something. We take it for granted that we are. We never really look at that. We never really look at the foundation of who we really are and what our life really is. We just start adding to it and trying to build it up into something else. But in Zen, we don't try to build it into anything else. We try and let go of everything so that we can just be what we really are without adding anything to it. Like if you can let go, let go, let go. But what is there you can't let go of? Like me and, my mom's wedding dress. She had her wedding dress. It's almost 70 years old, all folded up still in this nice little plastic thing. And I thought, what am I going to do with this? I don't know what to do with it. Hard to let go of. I let go of it. But, what can't you let go of? What things are there you can't let go of? And then if you let go of everything, if you can, there's those little minutes, seconds, microseconds in between each breath when you let go of everything. Who are you then? What are you? That's what we're here to see. So there's a poem. I bought a book of Chinese poetry once. I read the whole thing. It's okay. I have never had any inclination to read it again, but it was all right. It was good. A lot of them are really old poems. Very interesting to have poetry written 3,000 years ago. You can read it. But there was one poem in that whole book. Actually, it was just one stanza of one poem that I really liked so much I folded the page. So every now and then I'll go look at it again. And really, out of that whole one stanza, it's just one line that I really liked. So, but I'll read that now. This poem is called Drinking Wine, written by Tao Qin about roughly 380 AD, early Middle Ages period, kind of roughly the time frame that St. Augustine was writing stuff over in the desert, general time period. I don't really know when he did stuff, but I think it was right around 400 or a little before then. But anyway, so this one stanza I liked goes, "Way's been ruins 1,000 years. People all hoard their hearts away. So busy scrambling after esteemed position, they'd never touch wine. But whatever makes living precious, occurs in this one life, and this life never lasts. It's startling, sudden as lightning, 100 years offering all abundance. Take it. What more could you hope to make of yourself? So that last line, what more could you hope to make of yourself? That was the one that really caught me for some reason. It just made me think that, the universe, it's like such a miracle, such an incredible miracle. And yet we try and build ourselves up into as if we could surpass that somehow in some way or something, Um, you know, I mean, you can walk into a huge city and you can look at like some enormous skyscraper and it's like awesome, totally awesome. But like a single blade of grass is like a million times more complex and a million times uh, more miraculous, And we're part of that. I mean, each one of us was born like an unsurpassable miracle. We don't have to try to gain anything or be anything else or anything better. So then when I was writing this, I thought about, think of your heart. I mean, just your physical heart that we each have in us. It's just a really simple pump is what it is. It's like a bunch of muscles with veins and arteries going through it, and it just pumps. But it's like the most wonderful pump in the world. It takes blood that doesn't have oxygen in it anymore. It's full of toxins from your cell respiration, I guess. And it pumps it into your lungs, and your lungs are able to filter this out and release the toxins back into the atmosphere and let your blood absorb more oxygen and pump it back to the heart, and then it goes back into your body, and you have this whole enormous, incredibly complex uh, network of veins, arteries, capillaries that feeds every single cell in your body so that every cell gets oxygen, and all this stuff has to work together perfectly. Like the pressure in all those little veins and arteries and everything has to be controlled. And, it doesn't work without blood. The blood has to be there and it has to do its job. It's just absolutely amazing. You think, how did that develop? How did that happen? And the thing that's amazing about it is, I mean, this totally supports our life. It supports us sitting here doing Zazen right now, talking. Everything we do is totally dependent on that working. And we're just mostly totally unaware of it. It's like we don't even know it's there. And the thing is, it's like it's not just our heart, it's like the whole universe is our heart. I mean, the whole universe supports us. And most of the time, we really don't even know it's there. I mean, like we breathe in this oxygen in our lungs, but if there isn't plants, there's not going to be any oxygen. So you got to have plants. Um, but to have plants, you got to have a sun because they need sunlight to photosynthesize. See, this whole universe is really our heart, that really, uh, that we're part of that. We're part of that. And a lot of times we just don't even know it, because we're busy. We're trying to add something to something that doesn't need anything. Um, anyway, so what about the 3 pounds of flax? Um, I really can't help you. I don't know. Um, all I know is like you can't buy that in a store. You have to find your own and use it. Use your own. And so really, I had to give a talk, so I did this. But what I wanted to say was, um, we have a rare opportunity here. So let's just enjoy sitting together and let's just do our best. Thank you.